So now that the 2026 NBA trade deadline is over, we now know these rosters most likely at its final point. Now, we could see a couple guys get added throughout the buyout market. We could see some teams trying to get that #1 overall pick, so maybe they're going to take the month of March off, who knows. And then we're also going to see teams try to get maybe a top 3 seed in their respective conference. So something I like to do every year after the trade deadline, let's rank every single NBA team post trade deadline 30-1. And like always, if you agree or disagree with anything that I have here, please let me know down below. Let me know, am I too high on your favorite team? Am I too low on your favorite team? Let me know. So we're going to start off at number 30, and this is pretty much who I think I would take the least in like a 7-game playoff series tomorrow, the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Brooklyn Nets do not have the worst record in the NBA right now. The moment I'm recording this, the Pacers are slightly worse in the Eastern Conference, and the Pelicans and the Kings both have more losses as well. But the Nets have been the worst team in the league over the last 2 weeks. When Michael Porter Jr. is not on the court, their offense is abysmal. It's a lot of rookies out there just trial and error, just figuring things out. They added a lot of new names at the deadline: Josh Minot, Hunter Tyson, and Ochai Agbaji. I do think Michael Porter Jr. might not play a ton in the month of March, as well as we're going to see teams really ramp up the tank so they can at least get the worst record in the NBA. So the worst thing that can happen is they fall to 5. We obviously know it's a top 3 draft with Darren Peterson, AJ Debanta, and Cameron Boozer. I think this is fine for the Nets, though. They want to see what they can get out of Traore, Wolf, Soroff, Drummond, Drake Powell, and maybe a little bit of Noah Conley towards the rest of the year. But yeah, when I'm watching the Nets right now, I think they're the worst team in the NBA. So coming in at number 29, I might be too low on them. I have the Sacramento Kings. The reason why I might be too low on them, even though they have the worst record in the NBA right now, they didn't trade away DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, Russell Westbrook at the deadline. The only guy out of that group that could get bought out is maybe Russell Westbrook, since he's under an expiring contract. So this team is going to have a lot of veterans to play in the second half of the season. A lot of like all-star caliber veterans in a way with Domantas Sabonis, and LaVine and DeRozan can still give you high quality minutes on any given night. If it's the Kings versus the Nets, I'm obviously going to trust DeRozan, LaVine, and Sabonis versus a bunch of rookies over there in Brooklyn. So the Kings have a little bit of a head start at 12-40 right now, but them not tearing it down enough, I think, could result into some meaningless wins when we get to March. Maybe right now they're not going to win that many games, but if they're going up against a bunch of G Leaguers or a bunch of two-way guys in the month of March, DeRozan can give you 30 on those guys. Zach LaVine can give you 30 on those guys. And I think the Kings are going to win too many meaningless games. Right now, watching them, I still think they're one of the worst teams in the league. I have them at 29. But when I update this one more time at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in like the 25 range and fumble their chances at getting a top 3 pick in the draft. Coming in at 28, a team that is not afraid to tell us they're tanking right now, the Utah Jazz. So the Utah Jazz made a big splash at the deadline, going out and acquiring Jaren Jackson Jr. It's funny because a lot of these guys that we saw go at the deadline for teams in this range, we're not going to see them that much in the second half, in my opinion. Triple J was healthy against the Minnesota Timberwolves earlier this week, so I do wonder what new injury is going to flare up for Triple J, and I wonder if the league's going to just come down and find some of these teams, because it might get embarrassing. I get why the Jazz have a top 8 protected pick. They have no reason to try to compete in the second half of the year, because if they lose their pick, this is like a wasted season in a way, and I would want to tank too. It's just like we're now openly tanking out there. I watched them against the Atlanta Hawks on Thursday night, and it's just Isaiah Collier ISO. He had a good game, but it was just like him isolation every single time. They tried to draw up like a Kyle Filipowski play at the end of the game, and I'm like, all right, is this a tank fest from Will Hardy at the end of the game to kind of blow it? Either way, the Jazz have some fun young players with Ace Bailey, the aforementioned Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Sensabaugh. Who knows? Maybe we're going to get a Yusuf Nurkic triple-double stretch again later in the year, but this team is going to want to be bad, and I think they will be bad out there. Coming in at number 28. And coming in at number 27, another team that made a big splash at the deadline, the Indiana Pacers. On deadline day, they traded away Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-rounders, and a second for Ivica Zubac, a huge addition for Tyrese Haliburton returning next year. But the one caveat to that trade, they gave up their 2026 first-round pick, but it's top 4 protected, and it's 10-30 protected. So we're basically at a Vegas casino. If it's between 5 and 9, the Clippers get it. Outside of 5 to 9, the Pacers get it. Then it turns into like a 2031 Pacers unprotected pick going to the Clippers. So the Pacers have all the incentive to tank in the rest of the year. They're 13-38 right now. They have the worst record in the Eastern Conference, third worst record in the NBA. They just traded away Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson. I'm going to assume some other guys are going to be banged up in the second half of the year. Obi Toppin's kind of been banged up all year, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's an Aaron Nesmith injury, a new Ivica Zubac injury, and a Pascal Siakam injury as well. Because the Pacers do have guys that play hard every single night, and they could also luck into or unluck into some wins in the second half. But I do think they're going to get the tank on, coming in at number 27. And coming in at number 26, I actually think I was going to have them lower, but they just beat the Detroit Pistons on the road. So I had to put them a little bit higher off that win alone. I have the Washington Wizards coming in here at number 26. The Washington Wizards made two huge splashes this year in the trade market. One kind of deadline week, one back in January when they got Trae Young, and then this week they trade for Anthony Davis. Who thought that they were going to be the team that was going to trade for Anthony Davis? And I'm very intrigued about the 2027 Wizards. But honestly, the 2026 Wizards are still fun to watch right now. I'm still enjoying Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, Will Riley's performance against the Detroit Pistons as well. And some of these young guys really trying to make a name for themselves to be in the rotation and be in their future plans going forward, because their GM, Michael Wigner, said a couple weeks ago that this is an evaluation period for all these young guys to see who's going to be a part of their future. And I think they're all taking that seriously right now. They're still dead last in the NBA in terms of net rating, but they just have a lot of young guys that play hard. And I think that could also result into some wins as well. And like I said, I was going to probably have them at like 29 because we're not going to really see Anthony Davis or maybe Trae Young at all this year either. But if they're going to play hard against like the Detroit Pistons, like that was an impressive win. I know Jalen Duren got hurt, but outside of Tobias Harris, everybody else was out there for Detroit. It was a really impressive win, and I'm bumping up a couple spots for that one. And coming in at number 25, they have the second worst record in the NBA right now, but they don't own their first round pick. I have the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans are 13-40. I mean, plenty of jokes that they had the most untouchable 13-38 roster leading up to the trade deadline. Then they proceed to lose to the Charlotte Hornets. Hey, everybody can lose to the Charlotte Hornets. And then they end up losing to the Milwaukee Bucks, who are also kind of trying to tank right now. They could not close out that game whatsoever. This is the most talented 13-40 team I've ever seen. They should not be this bad, but I just don't think they really work together on a basketball court. Everybody individually is good, but together it's not really working out. They only traded away Jose Alvarado. They kept everybody else. They should get back DeJounte Murray this year as well. And I think while the other teams are going to tank, they're going to be more competitive. And if they have a Jazz game, a Kings game on their schedule, Pacers or Nets or Wizards, they're going to win that game because, hey, they don't own their first round pick. They're not trying to lose games. They're going to play Zion as much as they can, who's been healthy lately. Trey Murphy as much as they can. Maybe Jordan Poole starts to get consistent minutes again. And like I said, DeJounte Murray will return. Sadiq Bey is still on this team, as well as Yves Missi. I think they're going to end up a lot better. And I think like if they play the Jazz or the Pacers or the Kings in like a hypothetical 7-game series tomorrow, the Pelicans would win. So coming in at number 24, maybe the most active team at the trade deadline, the Chicago Bulls. They finally, I can't really say blow it up. They didn't like fully tear it all down, but for the most part they did. Vucevic is gone, Kobe White's gone, Dosunmu's gone, and that's just a step in the right direction for the Chicago Bulls. They brought in Jaden Ivey, they brought in Rob Dillingham, they brought in Colin Sexton, Gershon Yabusele. And I still think this team is better than all the teams that we talked about because they still have good players. They still have Josh Giddey, Matas Buzelis, Trey Jones on this team. Hey, this is going to be a tryout period for Rob Dillingham. Is he going to get his 4th-year option picked up? I'm excited to see Jaden Ivey with a higher workload and Colin Sexton as well. They did lose to the Toronto Raptors in their first game together, 107-123, but hey, Gershon Yabusele had his best performance of the season in his first game as a Bull. They're still going to play Patrick Williams a ton. We're seeing like Yuki and Mac McClung play right now, but once the guys that got traded get fully cleared, we'll see a little bit better talent out there. We know they don't have a lot of big men at the moment. They also picked up Nick Richards as well. The Bulls are bad. They're not like really, really bad, but hey, maybe they're going to get rewarded in the lottery. Coming in at number 23, I don't know if they're going to try to be bad, just be flat out bad, or Giannis is going to just come back and help them win meaningless games. I got the Milwaukee Bucks coming in at number 23. They're 12th in the Eastern Conference right now. If they were smart, they would not try to make the play-in tournament whatsoever. They would basically guarantee themselves close to a top 10 pick, regardless if their one moves up or if the Pelicans one moves down, which is a good thing. And if this team can add a Keaton Wagler, a Kingston Flemings, a Caleb Wilson, that would be amazing compared to something that they would get at pick like 15 or 16 in this draft. I think it's somewhat of a top-heavy draft in a way, so I think that would be wise for Milwaukee. I know they didn't trade away Giannis Antetokounmpo. That was a big storyline leading up to the deadline. They didn't trade for anybody anybody like a John Morant or a Miles Bridges or a Jeremy Grant. They made one move, sending out Amir Coffey and Cole Anthony, basically bringing in Ousmane Dieng. So yeah, this team is going to be bad in the second half. I'm not sure how much Giannis is going to play. I do think they still have a good enough roster to beat teams like the Pelicans, the Wizards, with Kyle Kuzma, Miles Turner, Ryan Rollins that are playing hard every single night, Kevin Porter Jr. as well. So yeah, I got the Bucks coming in at 23. They're a bad team, but like the Bulls, they're not like a really bad team. Coming in at number 22, I have the Memphis Grizzlies, another team that made a rebuilding move at the deadline, sending out Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Utah Jazz, bringing back Walter Quayton, Taylor Hendricks as like the main two young pieces, and some first round draft capital. This team is still like solid on paper, right? You still have Cedric Howard. Not sure if Zach Edey's going to play much throughout the rest of the year. Ty Jerome just came back and was great. He's probably not going to play back-to-backs, though. John Morant is out for a while. Scottie Pippen Jr. is still day-to-day. He hasn't played this year. Brandon Clark is hurt. Santi Aldama is hurt. So this team has a lot of injuries. I don't know if that's going to change. They played over 20 guys this year as well. We're going to see a lot of G.G. Jackson. We're going to see a lot of Coward and Wells and Cam Spencer in the second half. And I just think, like the Bucks, like the Bulls, this team is good enough to win some meaningless games against the bottom feeders, but they're still a competitive roster out there. I wonder, yeah, like how much we're going to see out of like Edey and John, any of those guys for the rest of the year. But either way, the Grizzlies are still a fine enough roster. I think they're going to try to get their tank on. They just might be too good to pull anything off. Coming in at number 21, I have the Dallas Mavericks, and the Dallas Mavericks also have another reason to kind of bottom out a little bit to get their best chance at a topic in the draft, given that they don't own their first round pick next year. But when I'm watching the Dallas Mavericks, Cooper Flag is so good. On most possessions, he's looking like the best player out there, and he's really leveled up a notch as well. Like over the last few weeks, Cooper Flag has been on an absolute tear for the Dallas Mavericks, and the game is really starting to slow down for him. Against Charlotte in their 2-point loss, he had 49. Then he had 34 points against the Rockets. He had 36 points against the Celtics, and just had 32 points against Wemby and the Spurs. Now they've lost all 4 of those games. The Mavericks are going to continue to lose games. They had Tyus Jones at the deadline. They had Chris Middleton. Not sure if he's really going to play. I assume we're going to see Kyrie Irving back this year. Not sure how much they want Kyrie to play, given their reason to kind of bottom out a little bit. But I think Cooper Flag alone could result in a few wins. They still have some talented players on this roster if they're healthy, in like a Daniel Gafford, in a PJ Washington, Max Christie, Najee Marshall as well. And yeah, post Anthony Davis trade, who wasn't even playing for them, I don't think really their seeding changes too much. I have them here at 21. Coming in at number 20, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. Now the Clippers are in the same boat as the Pelicans. They do not own a first round pick this year. So I know they traded away James Harden for Darius Garland. I know they traded away Ivica Zubac for Benedict Mather and Isaiah Jackson, but they don't have a reason to bottom out either. So when they're going up against all these bottom feeders, I'm expecting them to win. It was a little bit shocking that they finally became somewhat good again after that 6-21 start, and then they decided to blow things up. Maybe James Harden just changed everything. Maybe it was that much of an unexpected trade request, and that was an offer from the Pacers they really couldn't refuse either, getting their 2026 first round pick with those protections. So this Clippers team is still not like terrible at the moment. They still have some injuries to a Darius Garland, and Derrick Jones Jr. just came back against the Cavs. As long as Kawhi's playing, this team should be fine. They're going to be adding, hopefully, Darius Garland back before March. You have Benedict Mathurin now and Isaiah Jackson as well. So we'll see how competitive this team will be. They didn't trade away a Bogdan Bogdanovic. I thought that was shocking. There wasn't a bogey in a second round pick for one of the 9,000 guards in Chicago. I didn't really get that one. They didn't trade away Chris Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr. after selling off Harden and Zubac. So maybe this is going to be a retool rather than a rebuild. I got the Clippers coming in at number 20. Coming in at number 19, I have the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers have been one of the worst teams in the league over the last few weeks. Denny Avdia has been dealing with injuries at the moment. Scoot is about to come back. Chris Murray's been hurt as well. And this team has been a little bit underperforming this year, and it's mainly because of injuries, with Scoot missing the whole first half of the season. Drew, Grant, Denny all missing time this year as well. They're 23-28, 10th in the Western Conference, 22nd in net rating. I'm expecting Memphis and Dallas to try to lose a lot of games in the second half. The Clippers, I think, are going to try to stay competitive, but I think there's still a good chance for Portland to be a play-in tournament team, to at least give this roster a meaningful game in the play-in. I don't think they're going to make it out of the play-in. I think some of the Western Conference teams ahead of them will end up beating them, but it's not bad for this core to at least get a taste of what like a nationally televised game in April feels like. But yeah, this year I would say it's been a little disappointing. They still have foundational additional pieces going forward. And then you get the excitement about Damian Lillard returning next year. Who knows? Maybe this team is lucky on the draft lottery night. But yeah, I got the Blazers coming in at number 19. I don't think they're too much better than this. You can maybe have them a few spots higher. Coming in at number 18, I have the Atlanta Hawks. I have no idea what this roster is. They almost lost to the tanking Utah Jazz on Thursday night. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had a very lucky bounce that hit the game-winning shot there. The Jazz had some abysmal final possessions at the end of it. The Hawks could not get an offensive rebound to save their lives. They were active at the deadline. Kristaps Porzingis for Jonathan Kuminga. We know they traded Trae Young a little bit ago. They traded away Luke Kennard for Gabe Vincent in a second rounder. They add Jock Landale, who balls out in his first game against the Utah Jazz, which is technically his former team because he was traded there in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. It's also going to be another just like figure things out second half for the Atlanta Hawks. I think they're going to play hard every night. They don't have their first round pick. It's going to San Antonio, so they don't really have a reason to bottom out in the second half whatsoever. Plus, they're already getting that Pelicans Bucks swap, which has a really good chance at the minimum of being a top 7 pick in this draft. So they want to see what they can get out of Kuminga. Obviously, Jalen Johnson has been an all-star this year and is an all-star. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been great. They still want to see more out of Dyson Daniels and Reese Shea and Asa Newell and some of these guys down the stretch, because I think this is also somewhat of like a retool, see it out period, kind of like the Clippers in a way, but they're just a little bit younger. Coming in at number 17, I have the Miami Heat. They didn't make a single trade at the deadline, so they're not really going to get much better. The Heat are still an elite defensive team this year, but I just can't take them seriously. I just feel like they're going to end near 500. They're going to go 42-40, 44-38, a good, fine record, and they're probably going to play in the play-in tournament once again. Tyler Hero has been dealing with a toe injury, so they're pretty much at full strength right now. And I just am waiting for them to go on somewhat of a winning streak and separate themselves from the pack here in the play-in. They just haven't done so. I love Kasperi Jonas, and there's been a lot of up and down to him getting more minutes this year in the 26 games he's played in. I feel like you never know what Jovic you're going to get every single night, or Fontecchio. They're just going to shoot well, shoot not well. Norman Powell's been an all-star this year, which is great. You would like for him to be a little bit better defensively, but obviously he's been their best offensive player. I thought they were going to sell high on Andrew Wiggins. I don't know why they didn't do that. Maybe they're just waiting to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo on the night of the 2026 draft. But yeah, I'm just not really moved by Miami. I have them here at 17. And this might be recency bias. This might be a hot take because they're still about 2.5 games worse than Miami. I have the Charlotte Hornets at 16. I have Hornets fever. I'm enjoying the Charlotte Hornets, man. They are on a 8-game winning streak, and they're still 4th in this Southeast division. But the Hornets, ever since the calendar turned 2026, have been one of the best teams in the NBA, and it's because they are finally healthy. LaMelo, Miller out there consistently. This is what we were dreaming for last year when these guys were banged up. And you're adding in Concanipple, who's going to finish at the lowest second in the Rookie of the Year race. It's him versus Cooper Flagg. Moussa Diabate and Miles Bridges has been a formidable front court. They just add Kobe White at the deadline as well, and Solana has had his moments. Kalkbrenner's had his moments this year. Sion James and McNeely a little bit as well. I mean, you're just getting anything out of these guys is just a plus at this point. Plus Grant Williams as a veteran coming off the bench. I'm loving the Charlotte Hornets right now. They've also beat some good teams this year. Hey, they beat the Spurs, the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the Thunder. They have beaten every single top team we say is a top team in the Western Conference. The Hornets are probably not going to win a playoff series, but I think they can make it out of the play-in tournament this year. So starting off the top half of the league, coming in at 15, I have the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Warriors just had a great win against the Phoenix Suns, and I think the Warriors, it's just going to be tough in the second half. With no Jimmy Butler, they make basically 2 trades at the deadline, sending Trayce Jackson-Davis to Toronto for a second rounder, and they trade away Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield for Kristaps Porzingis. I think the player of Kristaps Porzingis makes the Warriors better, but I've just seen this so many times with Kristaps that I can't trust him to stay healthy and be available for the Warriors, who desperately need him out there. It's not like the Warriors are like the deepest team in the NBA. It's not like the Warriors are the 2024 Celtics, where they could be okay with Kristaps taking his time. No, they need him on the floor ASAP. They have no Jimmy Butler. Steph is still playing at an All-NBA first team level, but he's getting up there in age, and you never know what you're going to get from some of these guys that are asked to do a ton this year, in Micah Santos, in a Pat Spencer, in a Moses Moody in a higher level on this team, or DeAnthony Melton. They didn't trade away Draymond Green. I just think they get overmatched by some of the other teams in the Western Conference. I think they get overmatched by some other athletic teams out there as well. The Warriors should still make the play-in tournament. That's obviously not going to change. I'm not sure if they're going to make it out of the play-in tournament right now, because in that range they'll have to go up against, maybe it's a Phoenix, maybe it's a Portland, maybe it's a Clippers team. I think they're better than probably Portland and the Clippers. Phoenix, though, I know they just beat them. Phoenix didn't have Devin Booker. Golden State didn't have Steph Curry. So you never know what can happen. I have them here at 15. I'm just a little pessimistic about the Warriors in the second half, and I'm hoping I'm wrong for Steph's sake. And coming in at number 14, you may disagree with me on this one because they've been around 500 all year long, but I think they're going to be a really good team in the second half. I have the Orlando Magic. So maybe it's addition by subtraction with them trading away Tyus Jones in a straight salary dump, who got traded to Charlotte, then rerouted to Dallas. This team is starting to get somewhat healthy again. I just want to see Franz out there with Paolo, Suggs, Anthony Black, who's going to be in the most improved player conversation, and Desmond Bane. Hey, Jalen Suggs just had maybe his best game of the year against the Brooklyn Nets. They ended up beating them by 20. Jalen Suggs had a triple-double in this game as well. And this roster is just way too good to be around 500. So if they don't separate themselves out of the playing tournament in the second half of the year, they have to make some type of coaching change or some type of philosophical change in the offseason, because I've never seen a more talented team be closer to 500 just because of my high expectations for them. I think they're maybe the most disappointing team in the NBA this year, but I'm believing the Orlando Magic in the second half. Maybe it comes back and bites me. Coming in at number 13, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Honestly, I wanted to put Orlando in ahead of Philadelphia, but Philadelphia's got a couple more games on them. They would have the two best players in any Orlando Magic 76ers matchup with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But over the last week, the 76ers have gone a lot worse. They didn't add anybody at the deadline. They salary dumped Eric Gordon. They traded away Jared McCain for draft capital. None of those picks are going to help you out this year. And Paul George, you could say their third best player, got suspended for 25 games as well. So he's going to miss a really large chunk of the second half of the season. I know they traded away Eric Gordon to give Dominic Barlow a standard contract, but they didn't make any other type of trade. And I think this team and its lack of depth is really going to come back and bite them. You're putting a very high workload on a rookie in VJ Edgecombe and Joel Embiid, who's got a little bit of an injury history in his past, plus Tyrese Maxey with his insane minutes workload this year. Quentin Grimes is going to have to step up. They're asking a lot out of Dominic Barlow as well, and Kelly Oubre and Andre Drummond and Dembona. Because if one of those guys also suffers like a 2 to 3 week injury, I don't think they're really going to match up well with any team around them in this range or higher up towards the top. So I'm a little bit lower on Philadelphia in the second half, although I do think that their season has been way better than expected. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, but it might actually have to be out of the play-in tournament now. Coming in at number 12, I went back and forth between 12 and 11. I ended up going with Toronto here at number 12. Toronto also didn't really make any big splashes at the deadline. They salary dumped Ochai Agbaji to the Nets. They acquired Chris Paul, who's going to log 0 minutes for them. They also traded for Trey Jackson-Davis, who I just talked about with the Golden State Warriors. It's just nothing was really going to transpire with this team at the deadline. It felt like the framework for Domantas Sabonis was too complicated given Jakob Poeltl's contract and his health at the moment. They maybe wanted to trade away RJ Barrett, but nothing really came to fruition over there either. The Raptors have been very inconsistent offensively this year, and their second half is really going to be defined by Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and RJ Barrett offensively. How is the center rotation going to look with Mamu, Trace Jackson-Davis, and then like rotating Colin Murray-Boyles and Scotty Barnes at the 5 if Jakob Poeltl is going to miss a decent amount of time over the next few months? I still think the Raptors are a good team. They're coming here at number 12. I think they're the best tier 2 Eastern Conference team, and that's what I have them at. And coming in at 11, a team that is very similar to the Toronto Raptors. You could say they're kind of like the Toronto Raptors of the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns, a team that also prides itself on its defensive style of play. I think Jordan Ott today is the coach of the year. That could still change towards the end of the year. The Phoenix Suns didn't really make a big splash at all at the deadline. They traded away Nick Richards for Amir Coffey and Cole Anthony. They didn't really need any more guards. They did that to duck the luxury tax. I mean, I think they're playing with house money this year. Another team that doesn't own their first round pick, so they have no incentive to think that not making it out of the lottery is a fine thing in the long run. It stinks how much time Jalen Green has missed this year. Devin Booker has missed a decent amount of time with an ankle injury either. But Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie, Mark Williams, these guys have stepped up for them. It was a brutal loss that they kind of choked away against the Golden State Warriors, but hey, 31-21 this year. They play harder than you every single night. I got them here at number 11. You can even make an argument they should be higher. Coming in at number 10, I have the Los Angeles Lakers. The LA Lakers made one trade at the deadline, sending out Gabe Vincent and their only second round pick they have left in their possession in 2032 for Luke Kennard, who's a very good three-point shooter, but he also doesn't take a ton of threes either. Austin Reeves just came back for this team and balled out against the Philadelphia 76ers. They still have Luka Doncic playing at an all-NBA first-team caliber level, and you have LeBron James still playing at an all-star caliber level. He is an all-star this year. Even if you don't think he deserved it, he's still at least in that conversation with what he's done this season. And I think the Lakers are still a good, respectable team. I don't think they're a tier 1 team in the Western Conference, and I think we're going to see that when we eventually get to the playoffs. But I do think they're probably the best tier 2, or like in the middle part of the tier 2 Western Conference teams right now. I have them here at number 10. They're currently 16th in the NBA in terms of net rating. So let me know, Lakers fans, you think I'm too high or too low? You probably think I'm too low. Because coming in at number 9, a team that is actually like free falling right now, the Houston Rockets, a team that made 0 trades at the deadline. Fred VanVleet is probably going to be out for the year, and even if he comes back, I don't know if I trust a small guard who's in his 30s off an ACL tear 5 to 6 months later. I don't really trust that at all. Steven Adams is out for the year. They're getting torched defensively. Ime Udoka just called out Alperen Şengün's defense in a press conference. This team is kind of just an absolute disaster right now. They've had some really bad losses as of late. They lost to the Charlotte Hornets, the worst loss I think by any team all year, 21 points to the Boston Celtics. They were at home. The Celtics didn't have Jaylen Brown. Ron Harper, Baylor Shireman are just cooking this team at times. They barely beat the Indiana Pacers by 4. They barely beat the Dallas Mavericks by 4 either, and this team is sliding a little bit to 5th in net rating, so maybe this is a little bit too overreactionary to have them at 9. I just don't see where this team gets better. Maybe Reed Shepherd hits a stride, maybe Amen Thompson figures out a shot in the month of February, but Tari Eason has been dealing with injuries all year long. VanVleet's out, Adams is out, and Dorian Finney-Smith has kind of been an underwhelming signing for them so far. They don't have the greatest depth on paper because of all these injuries. At once, I thought they could actually win the NBA Finals this year, and they were the second best team in the NBA, so they've fallen down at number 9. And coming in at number 8, a team that we think's had a disappointing season so far, but they're 31-21. They're just basically 2 games different from the Rockets in the loss column. The Cleveland Cavaliers, who I think got better at the trade deadline. Garland to Harden for the year 2026 is a upgrade. Harden's available. He's better than Darius Garland. Long term, given the age, you could say Garland's a better asset. But right now, for what the Cavs are trying to do, at least make it to the conference finals this year for the first time in Donovan Mitchell's career, that's what they want to do. They get a little bit more depth trading away DeAndre Hunter for Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. They also just save a ton of money in the process there. They salary dump Lonzo Ball. They're going to hope to get Max Strus back. They gave Naquan Tomlin a standard contract as well. This team is 9th in net rating, and I think they're on the rise. I think we're going to see this team really hit its stride in February and March with James Harden into the fold. They have good depth on this roster, and now if Donovan Mitchell needs to miss time, or if Donovan Mitchell has an off night, they're not screwed. James Harden's going to be able to set things up. He's going to be able to get Evan Mobley involved when Evan Mobley is healthy again, and I think the Cavs could definitely be right back in that conference finals or maybe NBA finals conversation. Coming in at number 7, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that is 32-20. They're 7th in net rating. They're top 6 in offensive and defensive rating. Not many teams you could say that about. They've been very inconsistent all year long, but I loved what they did at the deadline, basically salary dumping Mike Conley, using the financial wiggle room and Rob Dillingham and Leonard Miller to go out and get Julian Phillips, but most importantly, Ayo Dosunmu. They had to kick in some second round draft capital in that trade, but Ayo Dosunmu is going to be such a night and day difference for the Wolves than Mike Conley or Rob Dillingham was for them this season. And they still have Anthony Edwards. They still have really good players around Anthony Edwards as well. This team could definitely make it to the conference finals for the 3rd straight season. I have them here at number 7. How do they keep doing this? How is Brad Stevens allowed to keep building these elite teams with no Jason Tatum? The Celtics are 33-18. Now, I didn't love the Celtics deadline. I didn't really love the addition of Nikola Vucevic. Now I'm excited about Vucevic getting these wide open threes in Boston, but as a rim protector, it's going to be a little bit rough for him. I mentioned it before, they beat the Houston Rockets on the road with no Jaylen Brown. This team, when it's on with its 3-point shooting, hasn't changed. They can really just make you feel lifeless as an opposing team because they're just going to knock down every single 3-point shot. They have good big man depth now with Garza and Keita, and now Nikola Vucevic into the mix as well. I've loved what I've seen out of Jordan Walsh this year. Obviously, Hugo Gonzalez can still give them some really good defensive possessions. So yeah, I have the Celtics coming in at number 6. Who would have thought when Tatum was going to be out for the year, or at least I still think he's going to be out for the year. And coming in at number 5, a team that has won 8 straight games. The sky was falling. If I had a top 30 power ranking a couple weeks ago, they probably would have been closer to 10. I have the New York Knicks at number 5. Maybe we shouldn't have overreacted to that 11 game stretch. Honestly though, you go 2-9 in 11 game stretch, like I don't think the Knicks are going to win the NBA finals this year, and honestly that stretch can prove it. They're 33-18, 8 games in a row, so 25-18 to this record is a really nice turnaround, and they've done it with some injuries as well, as Miles McBride has been really banged up. Josh Hart's missing missed a little bit of time as well. The Knicks go out and trade Gershon Novoselic for Dalen Terry, who they later then flip with second-round draft capital for Jose Alvarado. I love that addition to the backcourt. Landry Shamet and Mitchell Robinson just deserve blank checks from this team in the offseason, and Jalen Brunson has been on an absolute tear as of late as well. They just beat the Denver Nuggets in double overtime at MSG. They probably beat them twice in that game with that Mikal Bridges foul call. I still think the Knicks can win the Eastern Conference, but I have them as the second best Eastern Conference team for obvious reasons. Have them here at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I have the San Antonio Spurs. I went back and forth between them at 3 and them at 4. So the Spurs right now are the second best team in the Western Conference. They're currently 6th in the NBA in terms of net rating. Top 3 defensive team. They just beat the Dallas Mavericks most recently. Another team like the Miami Heat and the Houston Rockets to not make a single trade at the deadline. But what's different for the Spurs? I'm okay with that, honestly. They have plenty of depth right now. If you could say they could have found a new home for Jeremy Sohan, but they didn't want to maybe just undersell him. Maybe somebody gets hurt. And Harrison Barnes is a good veteran on this roster. I would have hated just leveraging his $19 million contract to like a 2-year deal worth $19 million or something like that. But this team has the best defensive player on the planet in Victor Wembanyama. He's got 3 solid guards around him in Fox, Castle, and Harper. You'd like for them to be a little bit more consistent, but maybe that will come more so in the second half. You have Vassell and Keldon Johnson as well around Wemby. You got some solid backup bigs and like Luke Cornett and like Kelly Olynyk. If you need him in a pinch, you don't want to play him too much out there. The Spurs, I want to say, are still a top 5 team in the NBA. I have them here at number 4. I think you can put them as high as number 3. But coming in at number 3, I have the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons are 37-13. I honestly wanted to drop them for that performance against the Washington Wizards. I'll maybe let it slide. Hey, they've been good for 49 games leading up to that point. The Pistons made 1 trade at the deadline, acquiring Kevin Huerter, sitting out Jaden Ivey. I also didn't love that trade in a vacuum. I'm surprised they didn't try to do anything else on the margins just to help out the offense. Maybe they think Huerter will help out the offense enough. They are still the second best defensive team in the NBA. They're 3rd in net rating. They have one of the best young players and one of the best players in general this year in Cade Cunningham. They have 2 All-Stars. I wonder how this team is going to look in a playoff series when Cade is getting double teamed. Who else is going to step up offensively? Is it going to be a number 2 option, Tobias Harris? We'll see. But for now, have them at number 3, and I don't feel bad about it. Coming in at number 2, I have the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are 33-19. I know you may think this is way too high for a team that's currently 3rd in the Western Conference and 8th in net rating, but Nikola Jokic missed a lot of time, and they were still able to have one of the better records in the NBA while Jokic is out. Now, it sucks that Peyton Watson is going to miss a decent amount of time. Aaron Gordon has missed time all year. Cam Johnson is still going to be out for a little bit as well. Spencer Jones got hurt against the New York Knicks. But if this team can be fully healthy, none of these guys are ruled out for the year, I still think the Nuggets have the best chance outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder on winning the NBA Finals this year. With the way Jamal Murray's playing as an all-star, Jokic is still a top 2 player in the NBA. Hopefully Christian Brown can have somewhat of a better shooting second half. I think they aced the Tim Hardaway Jr. signing. Bruce Brown's been better in the second half as well. Jonas Valanciunas has been a breath of fresh air for this team as a backup big. Right now, with all these guys hurt, yeah, they're not the second best team in the NBA, but at full strength, I still think they are the best threat to the Thunder, so they don't go back to back. So yeah, coming in at number 1, obviously, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder, another team that's had a lot of injuries. They had so many injuries against the San Antonio Spurs, and they still only lost by 10 in that game. They trade for Jared McCain. I've talked about that a ton, how much I love that deal for them. Let me list off their injury report right now. Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Isaiah Hartenstein, AJ Mitchell, Thomas Sorber, Nikola Topic, and Jalen Williams. That is insane how many injuries this team has, but they could still be competitive with the roster that Sam Presti built and the coaching that Mark Daigneault can perform on any given night. This team is still the best team in the NBA. They're number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 in net rating. They have the best record at 40-12. They have the reigning MVP and maybe somebody that's going to go back-to-back in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're going to see a ton of Chet Holmgren. Number 1 option, Chet Holmgren's about to be really interesting. While Shai is out, they're still the best team until proven otherwise, so I have them here at number 1. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you agree or disagree with down below. Would love to know your thoughts and opinions on my power rankings. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm going to have my post-trade deadline mock draft out tomorrow. So for all you tanking teams, I got something for you tomorrow, so make sure to be on the lookout for that, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.